Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm here with the great Doomwake. Big congratulations to the giveaway winner. Be sure to message Anzid on either Twitter or here on Twitch to get your prizes. So, Doomwake, you have just lost in front of the world. All these
I
people.
did.
You're one match away from being eliminated from the tournament entirely. You have this like this perfect tech for all the card draw spells, and this very awkward draw where you couldn't play any of them as you just like have to sit there and stare as your opponent draws all the cards in the world and you have the perfect cards that you just can't play. Anyway, how do you feel?
Well, when you put it that way, Caleb, I feel great. I mean, it is what it is. I added these cards to my deck to make the matchup better, but when you can't cast them, it's the mana base is a little sketchy. It needs a little bit of work, but yeah, very. I mean, hey, at least Kanister kept the one laner game one, so yeah.
That's true. That's true. Such is the game of Magic, right?
Absolutely.
It sounds like we are good to go to watch the next match. Hmm. Oh, they're already
Heavier.
going. Yeah, these hands look fine. I think I like canisters a little bit better because of the beanstalk on two.
Yeah. Yeah, that card is extremely powerful on turn two. Spike's got I mean Spike's curve is not too bad. Fable into Shieldred does some work, especially because you can like Fable just like if he finds a Scion or a Shadow Mortality, you can just go ahead and discard that and then find a fetch land for the
Sure.
cottage. But yeah, both hands
No,
look pretty reasonable.
do you know why Spike would shock here?
Um, to represent leyline binding to get I think he figures that his life total doesn't matter all that much against the four color deck because if you're losing by so much anyways. And to just kind of like put the thought of leyline binding into Canister's, head, maybe he plays around that, maybe he chooses not to play the beanstalk or something. So that might be
Sure.
why. He fired off a bolt here. Gonna go for the Fable. Step in Doth the Triumph. So if this Fable token dies, currently unable to cast the Shield Rip without an untapped land, but that's likely not going to happen because Canister's likely to play this Shardless Agent this turn.
That all makes sense to me. Anytime my zoo type opponent doesn't play a threat on turn two, I'm just fist pumping.
Yeah, the mana base can, for spikes that can be a little awkward sometimes. Like you have Sign of Draco, but then Sign of Draco, the only way you can cast it on turn two is the Temple Garden, and that makes your Witch's Cottages kind of awkward. So, I mean, you'll notice here Spike has all swamps, so unable or not unable to get the cottage into play untapped if he so draws a fetch land. It's like a blast and a triumph going to the graveyard. Picked up some
Oh.
beans. I was gonna say no green, but we got the treasure maker. Beans all around. Now the question for Spike is do you play the Beanstalk or the Shield Rid? With two Beanstalks on Canister's side, I'm inclined to play the Shield Rid this turn. That's what we're
It,
going
it
for.
looks
I
like
like that.
Spike agrees. I would be extremely paranoid of just being off green mana and these beanstalks rotting in hand for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that is a fair point. Especially because you know that Canister is very likely to have an answer. Between there's what, two Murderous Cuts, and 4 Solitudes here, so Canister very likely to have an answer this turn, and it's almost like like, when I've been playing Shieldred against the Beanstalk decks, I've almost been thinking about trying to hold it until they have, maybe even a 3rd Beanstalk in play because you can get more damage out of it,
Oh,
and, like, as you
interesting.
mentioned, now we're out of green mana for spikes, so
Maybe 12 life is enough. Calibrated blast stuff.
true. Yeah, we could just fire one off and YOLO it.
Oh,
It's not I mean, yeah, I love it. Let's do it.
I asked earlier about the shock, and I completely forgot about these shadow of mortalities.
Oh, that too. Right, yeah, that too. Yeah, you know all about the shadow mortalities. When you attack that one turn,
It
so he
was
had
so
3 of
bad.
them in his hand.
Right. Well, he had like tapped the mana to play it too, and then untapped,
Yeah.
and then I'm just like, well, this seems like a good attack. God, I just immediately like, oh no, what have I done? First match of the day problems.
See, a force of negation fight over the blast. Very relevant that it exiles because blast does have that flashback, so that's not going to be able to be flashbacked. But we do have one in the graveyard if Spike does draw a couple more lands here. And I mean, yeah, Solitude, your Fable token draw two seems like a really good turn here for Kanister.
So with this, ideally the calibrated blast in this deck, you're looting away Shadow of Mortality with Fable, and then using Witch's Cottage to put it on top of your library.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I've watched a little bit of Spike streaming it
It's
like throughout the day, and that's exactly what's going on here.
it's so adorable.
It's sick, yeah. Especially when it happens. It's just like everything is coming up, Millhouse. Gonna bolt the Solitude. Get that out of here. Don't want Canister gaining any life. Want that, especially with the flashback blast. And got a Teferi here for Canister, holding up Force. I mean, this is gonna be a really tough one for Mr. Spike here. Trying to think of a sequence of draws that maybe gets him out of this because okay,
That
well,
could be a
that's
start.
step one. That's likely to get forced. But now, theoretically, Canister does not have the force for the flashback one that's already in the graveyard. So if maybe Spike can rip a couple of lands off, we can get to that. But yeah, like you
Oh,
mentioned,
yeah, the flashback's 5.
right? Yeah, flashback is the 3 red, I believe.
Right, right. I always
But like
think of oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like you mentioned, you see these beanstalks just kind of chilling in Spike's hand. We talked about that turn four where he did have the opportunity to cast one, and looks like it might come back to bite him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he exactly drew a permanent green source after that.
Yeah,
Maybe looting away the Triumph. Who knows? That's all, like, after the fact
right.
type deal. That a time warp? Oh my.
Yeah, Canister just cycling through the solitudes here. He went pitch one, draw three, and then response to the evoke, pitch the other one just to gain 3 life and draw another three. But this is just kind of what happens with these bean stacks, where you get to these spots and you just effectively start cycling your elementals. And yeah, I think we might be past the point of no return here. The kids like to call this garbage time.
Do they?
I think they do.
Okay. Yeah, I saw a clip when Bean was, like, very fresh in the meta of someone getting Emrakul, and they shuffled their graveyard back into the library in response and went up to, like, 30 cards, and it super didn't matter because they had 3 beans in play. They just decked them very easily.
That's sick.
Yeah, and at that point, I realized I did not wanna touch this bean control deck.
You and me both. You and me both. We're on the same page. Yeah, frequently you'll see these players, they don't really want to put the fourth one into play because that's at the point where you really do have to think about starting to deck yourself. So yeah, you're probably going to see Canister decide likely not to put the fourth one in play. And I want to take a look at I think Canister has a main deck endurance if I was remembering that correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, one main deck endurance. So you know, in theory that can maybe like save you a little bit.
Yeah, I was kinda wondering, why he left it in against you, but I guess it makes sense now if it's just something that you need for your deck to function so you don't actually lose the game.
Yeah, binding on Omnath. That's I mean it's a start. But yeah, Canister's got so much stuff going on. Backup Omnath too. Of course, that's like the reverse Thoughtseize bug. Fetch land to go with it. Canister doing some upkeep fetching, playing around. I guess another removal spell.
God, 27 life. I have so much life
It's so much.
against
That's
Calibrated Blast.
yeah. That's two blasts for 15s. The math does in fact check out, but it's going to be a lot more than that by the time we get the 5 mana.
Yeah, yeah. Are you excited to play our match?
I am. Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. I was maybe people don't know, but I'm a big aficionado of the Asmore Rana. I'm not going to try to say the rest of it decks, and I think that list specifically. I don't know if I ever worked on a Sultai version, but I do love me some Time Civ.
Oh, same. Yeah. Yeah, I was drafting some time save stuff in at CubeCon and it got me in the mood. Hey, Spike hits the green from the beanstalk, getting things rolling maybe.
Might be a little too late. I will say Spike has more willpower than than I do. I would have conceded 5 turns ago. So
I think he might be playing for the decking. Like there's this
perhaps
endurance here, but triple bean, it could maybe come up.
fair point. Yeah, with the 3 beans, Kanister's on 15 cards, going to 12. So we got 12 cards in the graveyard right now. Can make that like 13 with the fetch. Can maybe cast some other stuff, do some cycling. Just put more cards in the graveyard to shuffle them back in.
I guess Teferi can bounce the endurance.
Yeah, that's true too. Well, you can even get into these spots where if you have enough green cards, you can just go endurance, pitch a green card, stack the trigger so that the creature dies before it gets shuffled, and then you shuffle the entire graveyard in, and then when you eventually draw it again, you draw it with another green card, and then you can kind of keep that loop going for as many green cards as you have in your hand.
Love that.
So he's doing a similar line where he's going to go hard cast endurance, and I believe trigger on the stack murderous cut it. That's what's going on here.
Nice.
Yeah, because you do want to shuffle it back in. Yeah, looks like that is good. That is exactly what's happening. Little fancy play from Kanister. Love to see it. Look at all these leyline bindings. There's so many of them. Jeez. Ooh, Bolt at 36. That's close. We're getting there. We only need what, 10 more of those? 11 more? Yeah, 11 more. Math. Spike's like, Kanister, you're drawing all these cards. Let me get a couple too. You know, Beanstalk into Fury. I'm lonely. I need some cards too.
It's only fair.
Yeah. Kanister's drawn what, 20 extra. Spike's drawn 2 extra. Pretty close.
One math off the board as a start.
Yeah. Binding. I wonder if you just go after the Solitude. Gonna go after the Binding. I can't. The window is so. Oh, that's on a Beanstalk. Okay. I was like, the window is so small. I can't even tell what's under the Binding. So many permanents. Yep. All right. So yeah, we got. Okay,
Bindings
there we
on
go.
bindings. Bindings setting up the beanstalk.
Shout out to coverage.
Coverage. Isn't that us? Shout out to us. Cheers. To us specifically.
Shout out to production is what I meant. You knew what I meant. Come on. Hardcast Shadow. That's a 7/7. That attacks. It does some attacking. It's gonna get tapped. I guess we got to do a fire ice count because I wonder if Kanister just has lethal with the fire ices. Okay.
Looks
okay.
like it. Looks like lethal enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Spike
because you just
packing
go
it in.
fire, fire, bounce the thing. Yep. Okay. Cool. Well, the game took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. All right, what do we got in the sideboards here? Yeah,
Spike's
Kanister with some commandeers. Ingot Chewer, Supreme Verdict, Force of Vigor, Subtlety, another Endurance. Not a ton here. Probably want the commandeers.
what are you commandeering? Calibrated blast?
Honestly, I just want to commandeer their beans.
Just beans? All beans all the
I just
time.
want more beans. Because then you can have like 6 in play, and then you draw more cards.
Too many. Many cards. I like those Force of Vigors coming in. The fact that they hit threats as well as card advantage engine and removal spells and everything. And then of course Spike going up to quad shieldred. That's like what they're there for, right?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Yeah, Spike burning a bunch of shield rids, and I think past that, not a ton else is coming in. I'm looking at the deck list. Yeah, looks like just the shield rids. And looks like a couple of bolts came out, but really doesn't have a ton else. Like Needle, I guess you could name Teferi, but it's kind of marginal. Path of Peril, no. Charmon, no. So yeah, looks like the Shieldreds and not a ton else here for Spike.
Spike has like a kind of a ton of anti Tron stuff in the sideboard. I wonder if he expected Kanister to go back to that.
Perhaps. Yeah, I know that Canister's been playing a lot of this 4-color deck on stream. So
You
I,
wouldn't
I kind of I kind of
you would
pegged him to play this.
okay. You wouldn't put me or you on Tron though, right?
I don't think so. You
So,
said you were a wild card. You could play anything. I guess that means you could play Tron. Have you ever dabbled into the Tron life before, Caleb?
very rarely. I developed a version for pre-modern, but that's like I need to stop talking about that format.
Okay, we got some hands look pretty good here for Spike. We got a 2-drop, we got a Calibrated Blast, and a Scion of Draco to follow that up, and we even have the Witch's Cottage to set up the Calibrated Blast. So things are looking up here for Spike. And Canister's hand looks pretty good too. We got some beans, some lands, some shardlesses, and that Force of Vigor too, which may or may not come up, especially because Spike just drew that Fable.
It kind of seems like both players have draws that are doing what their decks want to do.
Yeah, we get
Like
a
sure.
heads up.
Oh, sorry. A heads up.
I was gonna say a heads up solitude here from Canister before combat, because as we mentioned earlier, the discarding the threat and putting it back on top is one of Spike's like very, very common play patterns with those Calibrated Blasts, so Canister recognizing that. Now I'm curious. I wonder if he's actually gonna upkeep, just kill the Fable, with that same intention in mind. Just go ahead and get rid of the Fable before Spike can even discard. Looks like he is. Right. Fable's gonna hit the bin. It's like when you're in the spot with 2 beanstalks and a third in hand, you don't really mind just kind of throwing away an extra card, especially if you're,
Yeah.
preventing the discard.
Yeah, on its surface, it looks like your force of willing a half of a card. After it's already got the goblin in play, and like it doesn't feel great, but you're right. There's gonna be so many cards flowing.
So we're at 18. Shadow. We're a little ways away from the shadow. It's kind of this like weird angle that Spike's deck has, where it's just a bunch of shocklands and this big 7/7. Like so many different angles for this deck. We're gonna put the troll on top. We are interesting. Okay.
Maybe 6 damage is enough.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's just gonna go fire off blast for 6 here, and then just YOLO the flashback and try to spike a 12, because a 12 or a 15 are both lethal now. Yeah, it looks like that's the plan. I don't hate it. It makes good moments for us coverage, because we get to just the
It's
sweat.
exciting, yeah.
Yeah.
Hitting a 10 turns off fetches.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we're actually just gonna go for the Scion here. Maybe values the flashback blast with the shadow in hand. Because if you draw a way to discard the shadow, then you have it locked because you can go troll for cottage, put shadow on top, and then go from there. Or if the scion goes to the graveyard somehow. But in these especially in this matchup, there's a lot of the ways that Scion dies is via exile, like Leyline Binding and Solitude.
Yeah.
That's kind of the awkward part about putting it into play. But I mean, you kind of want to just put a threat into play anyways, so it makes sense.
Force of vigor. That's a way to. Oh, there's murderous cuts.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. There was 2 cuts and one of the red one. I forget the name of it, but yeah, there's 3 total delve removal spells.
Yeah, magmatic something or other.
Yep, a single, I think.
That was a fun one for that limited format.
Oh yeah, that card was sick.
I have such mixed feelings about the Modern Horizons sets. Because their limited formats are so sweet, and I like draft them to death when they're around. But then they have like slightly more impact than I would like. I think that's like a kind of a boring sentiment to share, though. There's so many people that feel similarly.
There's definitely a lot of opinions about the Horizon sets. I agree with you. I love the
Oh,
limited formats.
oh, we're
All right,
blasting.
we're YOLO blasting. What do we hit? We hit a
I started
binding.
blasting.
So close. See, I guess if you, yeah, I mean that's kind of the downside, right? If you quote unquote brick, then you still get to kill the Omnaths. So even that, not that bad in exchange. Oh, and then Spike immediately punished and draws the Fable because if we had saved it, we could have Fabled to discard the Shadow. That's tough. We're gonna draw 6 here.
That's so many cards.
That's
I
a
would feel
lot of
gluttonous
cards.
drawing 6 cards,
I can't hold that many cards.
right?
Bouncing the beans. Passing the turn. Hmm. Spike can deploy the Fable here. I mean, you're still drawing towards another copy of Calibrated Blast because we have the setup with the Shadow and the fetch land already, and Canister's only at 13. And as we see, no Force of Negation currently in Canister's hand, so Spike's playing towards something.
Absolutely.
Kill your guy, draw 2. Picked up a Solitude and a Binding.
Yeah, the binding's pretty good. Turn off that
Yep.
discard outlet.
Yep. That was definitely one of Spike's outs, and now it's been cut off. And Spike's entire match has been cut off. Well, congratulations to Kanister, excuse me, moving on to the winners bracket, and then it's time for us to battle Caleb.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. Yeah, Kanister locking up the top 8. Congrats to him. Making it look real easy too. He had that one game versus you where he didn't hit his second land drop, and then everything else was just it was smooth sailing. It looked like real consistent stuff.
Sure, the beans are too much. Just drew that 5 mana, draw 6, and just very 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 good deck, and piloted very well by Kanister. So
You know what I want to do against you?
what's that?
I want to Echoing Truth some rhinos.
Ooh, that's why you brought it, huh?
That's why that's
I'm
very
with you.
specifically, yeah. I Yeah, I thought about other options like explosives and that sort of thing, but those like they hit your own constructs, and so you can like it's like a hate card you can get back with Emery, but it also like destroys your own board.
Yeah,
Anyway, I didn't like that tension.
should be exciting. I'm ready for it.
Okay, sounds like we have a giveaway. Folks shouting out
Mhm.
horror in the chat if you'd like to win. And it sounds like we're ready for a break.